Well, it gives me a very great pleasure to welcome you here today for the RMIT 3-minute thesis competition finals. But before we get our 3-minute thesis business underway, we're in the habit at RMIT of paying respect and acknowledgement to the traditional owners of the country on which we do our business. And so it's my honour to acknowledge the Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung language groups of the Wurundjeri people of the Eastern Kulin Nations. These are the traditional owners of this land on which the university conducts its business. And all members of the university community recognise elders past, present and emerging. So for those of you who, I have to say, I've had a little talk with some of the judges, and I've got some real 3-minute thesis fans and junkies on the judging panels. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But some of you may not have been to a 3-minute thesis event before, so I'll just give you a little bit of a background. The 3-minute thesis competition's been running now for probably around a decade and a half. Initiated by some bright spark at the University of Queensland, recognising that excellent research skills are obviously very important for our research students, but equally important, excellent communication skills. You can have the greatest research idea or the greatest research project in the world, but unless you can compellingly tell the story of that research to someone who will A, publish it, or B, fund you to do it, your research isn't going to go very far. So skills in communication, skills in speaking to a range of audiences, including generalist audiences who may not have all the technical or specialist jargon, are absolutely vital tools in trade for researchers. And I think at this showcase event, I like to think we display just what terrific researchers our HDR candidates at RMIT are, but also what outstanding research communicators they are as well. In fact, I sometimes think when I listen to these students speaking so economically and succinctly about their research in 3 minutes using one slide, that every member of the university executive should put themselves through this training. If you've got an important message, get it out in 3 minutes and on one slide, because that's what these students do. I realise I actually haven't introduced myself. My name's Denise Cuthbert and I'm the Associate Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Research, Training and Development. So that's a little bit of background for the 3-minute thesis competition. Now it's my very great pleasure to introduce our judges, and I'll ask each judge to stand as I introduce them and tell you a little bit about their background. So first off, we've got Josh Gordon, who's the Economics and Finance Editor for RMIT ABC Fact Check. Josh has spent 17 years reporting on economics and politics in Canberra and Melbourne. He has an honours degree in economics and worked in the banking world and the federal bureaucracy before turning to journalism. He worked with Fairfax in 2000, in Canberra as the Age's economic correspondent, and then moved to the Sunday Age as the federal political editor. His career journey took several more twists and turns. Along the way, Josh pulled up won 4 Melbourne Press Club Quill Awards, so he does know a little bit about communication, including Best Columnist and Best News Report in Writing. He retains an interest in economics and politics and also in communication, and is eminently qualified to serve on the panel today. Thanks so much. Welcome, Josh. Next, I'd like to introduce Claire Russell, who's the Director of Research Engagement and Business Development here at RMIT. Claire is an accredited international partnership broker and leader in building collaborations for industry, community, researchers and government. She has a strong track record in national consortium creation and management. Supporting strategic university industry engagement, she is passionate about the changing role of universities and the value that university researchers can deliver to the economy and to the community. And I have to say, Claire's got some credentials in research communication herself because she's constantly pitching and with some success. So please welcome Claire. It's now my pleasure to introduce Mike Lansing, who is the self-confessed 3-minute thesis junkie. He's been to 12 competitions so far this year, and I think will have a presence in more, including the national finals, because of course he represents Unibank, and Unibank is a major sponsor, and we're very, very grateful to Unibank for their support of this event. Mike is passionate about ensuring that Unibank is the financial institution of choice for the university sector, and he has substantial experience across both mutual and listed banking institutions, having worked in senior business development roles with AMP, Bankwest, the Australian Military Bank, formerly the Australian Defence Credit Union, and now, of course, with Unibank. Mike is an alumnus of Sydney University, graduating with an economics degree. In his spare time, he likes to play a round of golf and spend time with his 2 daughters. Does that have to be on a golf course, Mike? Okay. Welcome, Mike, and thanks very much for giving of your time this afternoon. Our next panel member was the runner-up in the 2018 RMIT 3-minute thesis. Her name is Wenyu Zhu, and she is currently, Dr. Zhu is currently a postdoctoral research fellow at the Sir Ian Potter Nano-Biosensing Facility at RMIT. She has a PhD in applied chemistry, graduating last year under the supervision of Professor Bansal and Ramathan. Her research focuses on the discovery of light-active materials with multiple applications to improve human health and quality. She has been named among the 10 top innovators under 35 by MIT Technology Review in the Asia-Pacific region. Please make Dr. Zhu welcome. Now, our final panellist, but by no means our least eminent, is Professor Jason Potts, who's a Professor of Economics here at RMIT. He specialises in the economics of innovation and new technologies. He's the Director of the Blockchain Innovation Hub, and the first social science research, which is the first social science research institute on blockchain in the world. I think that Jason has engaged in some pretty skilled communications to get the Blockchain Innovation Hub up and running. Jason and his team are pioneering new approaches in crypto economics to help us better understand the economic impact of blockchain technology. His latest book is Innovation Commons, The Origin of Economic Growth, which is out with Oxford University Press. Please make Jason welcome. I'm just going to loop back again with a further vote of thanks to Unibank for their generous sponsorship of this event. The School of Graduate Research and indeed other parts of RMIT have had now several years association with Mike and his team at Unibank, and it's simply no exaggeration to say that Mike is committed to higher education, deeply committed to women in higher education, and deeply committed to research, and he's a great partner. And if you're looking for a bank to do your business, you can go no further than Unibank. There you go, I'm giving you a plug, Mike. All right, I think we are now at the point where we will begin our actual competition. We have several finalists today, so what's going to actually happen is that I will introduce each of the finalists as they come up onto the stage. Each finalist has 3 minutes in which to make their presentation. Our judges will be scoring and ranking the finalists as they go, and you should all have on your seats a ballot paper for the people's vote. and hopefully their pencils have now been distributed. So at the end of this competition, we will end up with an RMIT finalist, an RMIT runner-up, and a People's Choice Award. So I'm just going to talk to my people. We all ready to go? Okay. So our very first finalist today is a candidate from the College of Business, Emma Ray. She's undertaking her PhD in the School of Accounting. And please walk across and make yourself comfortable, Emma, while I introduce you. Emma is a PhD candidate in the School of Accounting. She is passionate about contributing to progress on gender equality in organisations and society. She is a board director of WIRE, which is the Women's Information Referral Exchange, and the former chair of CPA Women's Committee. She teaches accounting and auditing. Her research topic is reporting on gender equality in the Big Four accounting firms in Australia, but the title of her presentation this afternoon, which I imagine is a component of that research, is Accounting for Gender Transparency. So please make Emma welcome.
My first day working at an accounting firm, I felt out of place. I noticed that there were no female partners, and I wondered why. A decade later, as chair of the Women's Committee of a large professional accounting body, members told me about the discrimination they faced. Their experiences were common, and they were frustrated that there had been so little progress on gender inequality, which is widespread in Australia. Top accounting firms have stated the business case. They say it's important, that it's ethical. A McKinsey study has shown that by advancing gender equality, we could add $12 trillion to global GDP by 2025. It's been suggested that public reporting of progress will help make the firms accountable and the issues visible and increase the likelihood of positive change. But more needs to be done. In my research, I was curious to find out if Australia's top accounting firms were actually walking the talk and had transparent reporting, especially since advising clients on gender issues and reporting is a key source of income. I adopted a qualitative research approach and analysed documents on the firm's websites and reports to the government. What I found is that gender equality disclosures were poor quality. It was difficult to assess performance, and the firms often didn't follow recommended reporting guidelines. The issues were not visible, which makes accountability challenging. There were creative ways of accounting. For example, gender pay gap calculations that excluded partners and made the firms look fairer than what they really were. The next stage of my research will involve over 25 interviews with those in government research and reporting roles and partners at the accounting firms. I want their views on how mandatory reporting could be improved to be more transparent. So, future forward, where young people starting their careers can see female role models in senior leadership positions and not have to wonder where all the women are. Where all people can feel included, inspired, and know that they belong. A world in which this research is no longer necessary because gender inequality is no longer an issue.
Thank you very much. Please now welcome our second finalist, who is Neng Zhang from the School of Engineering in the College of Science, Engineering and Health. The title of Neng's presentation is Vibrations Can Be a Killer. His research is to investigate the effects of physical vibrations on driver drowsiness and its prevention. Eventually, an innovative active vibration system to counteract vibration-induced drowsiness will be developed. So, over to you, Neng.
Vibration can be a killer. Each year, many people die and more than 2,000 are seriously injured in the road accident in Australia because of the driver fatigue. Many believe that such a fatigue is due to a long drive without good rest. But it's not just lack of sleep make people driver drowsy. My research has found vibration transmitted through the car seat can make drivers sleepy in just a few minutes. And it's not the size of vibration, but it's the frequency that really matters. I and my teammate are recruiting 15 volunteers to drive in a simulator, which replicates the experience of driving on the highway for 60 minutes with exposure of normal road vibration. By looking at the volunteers' heart rate, brainwave, eye movement, and driving behavior, I was able to get the objective measure of how drowsy they are feeling as the 60-minute test progressed. The result was quite significant. Within 50 minutes of starting the vibration test, the volunteers are showing signs of drowsiness. Within 30 minutes, the drowsiness becomes so significant, requiring substantial effort to maintain alertness and safe driving performance. This effect was particularly obvious when the vibration occurred at a rate of 4 to 7 times per second. So it comes up with the question that why such vibration make drivers sleepy? Well, it turns out that when we start going to sleep, our brainwave oscillate at 4 to 7 times per second. We believe what is happening is drivers' brainwave are becoming synchronized to the vibration and putting them into the early stage of sleep. So what is a good thing this research can bring to us? Well, although the technology of the ruling vibration is there, the transportation industry only use it for the purpose of improving the comfort, never for preventing drowsiness. The exciting thing of this research is I identify a specific range of vibration that cause drowsiness, so it can be used as a new guideline for vehicle design to simply remove or isolate this bad vibration and help keep driver more alert. Not only that, if the vehicle can be redesigned, it could potentially save hundreds of lives each year in Australia and thousands worldwide. I believe that my research can help for a safe journey, and a safe journey is what everybody deserves to have. Thank you very much.
I think anyone who's driven in a car with a baby trying to get them to sleep knows that there's something in that research, because it does work. Our third finalist is Nilmini Weerasingi from the School of Property, Construction and Project Management. She's a doctoral candidate in that school, working under the supervision of Dr. Rebecca Yang, Dr. Eric Tu, and Dr. Tendung Lee. The topic of her research is deployment of building integrated photovoltaic, a dynamic socio-technological perspective. And the presentation today is to make every building a clean energy provider. So over to you, Nilmini.
Do you know every day buildings are becoming responsible for climate change? Buildings and the construction sector account for 40% of the total carbon dioxide emission globally. Guys, we need a change. We need a change because we need a we need a change. Of course, we can do from one of the easiest and accessible energy source that we all know, that's solar. Solar, we can integrate solar panels into a facade like this and into our walls, same as building element. We call it building integrated photovoltaics. But I wonder why, but we are still at the back. We are still at the back. There are only 2% of BIPV systems on only 2% of total PV generation. And in Australia, there are no less than 30 non-domestic buildings. So I wonder why building professionals are reluctant to such multifunctional technology. Then I realized it's not only because of technical advancement, but climate, but the quality, cost, everything matters. So in my research, I used to understand how socio-technical elements influence the system uptake. So in my research, it's a very complex process in multiple stakeholders, and technical elements govern diverse decision choice to system uptake. So I simulate the decision-making process using 60 BIPV projects in Australia and international countries. So I found realistic information. The results show that the building owners have accepted the system because they want to have under 3 criteria, because they want to have a sustainability status, they want to have an economic benefit, they want to have a structural value. So now the BIP projects are becoming economical viable and contributing majority of the energy demand. So it may be the right time to accept the BIPV systems. Next, I will guide stakeholders to accelerate the BIPV penetration so we can make every wall to a clean energy generator. Thank you.
Our fourth finalist this afternoon is Charlene Testrel from the School of Science. Charlene is a doctoral candidate under the supervision of Associate Professor Jeff Shemeta and Professor Dayanathi Nugagoda. The topic of her research is microplastic-induced changes to energy acquisition and expenditure in marine organisms. The title of the presentation this afternoon is The Microplastics Menace. So please make Charlene welcome.
Raise your hand if you brushed your teeth this morning. Yeah, most of us. And you probably feel good about brushing your teeth. But would you still feel good if you knew that brushing your teeth has actually created the worst pollution crisis this planet has ever seen? You see, lurking inside your tube of toothpaste are millions of tiny pieces of plastic called microplastics. But don't let their tiny size fool you. These microplastics are a big menace because after you flush them down the sink, microplastics end up in the ocean. And together, Australians throw 13 billion microplastics into the ocean every day. That's enough plastic to cover the MCG. These microplastics are eaten by ocean animals like fish. And I wanted to know how the health of those animals is affected by having a belly full of plastic. So in the lab, I watched to see how the cells in the stomach respond to eating a meal of microplastics. And what I found was that microplastics act like a foreign invader, forcing the stomach cells to produce a lot of defensive enzymes. You can think of these enzymes as tiny biological fighters that flooded the stomach, trying to find and neutralize the microplastic threat. But to make these defensive enzymes, the animals had to spend a lot of energy. And after a hard day of fighting the microplastics in their belly, they just didn't have any energy left over to reproduce. So they actually made fewer offspring. Understanding how microplastics affect animal health is a powerful tool that can help us manage the problem. My results can help us predict how microplastics will shrink the population of ocean animals like fish that we need for food. And if you're a little bit nervous about brushing your teeth tonight, you'll be glad to know that my results can benefit human health as well. because by showing us what health effects to look for, we are now ready to check if microplastics harm the human body. But the most exciting part of my research is that by now understanding the link between microplastics and animal health, we can now design materials that don't cause these negative effects. Materials that would be more environmentally sustainable to use and that can help us replace plastic in our lives and eventually eliminate the microplastic menace.
Finalist number 5 is Mohammed Faisal from the School of Management in the College of Business. Mohammed is a doctoral candidate in that school and an awardee of a joint scholarship from RMIT University and the Higher Education Commission in Pakistan. He's working under the supervision of Professor Pauline Stanton and Dr. Michael Maturi, and his research topic is Transforming Pakistan Hospitals, a high-performance work systems and ethical leadership, the answer. His topic, the title of his presentation this afternoon is Transforming Public Hospitals. Please welcome Mohammed.
I am feeling unwell and I'm poor. My doctor is in a public hospital. I wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning to walk many miles to join the long queues, hoping that I might be seen that day. The appointments do not start until 8 o'clock, and the waiting area is already full. After 4 hours, I finally see a nurse, and I'm given a token to get my blood collected. But I have to queue again to get another token for an X-ray. And during the process, I'm verbally abused and really annoyed to see people getting fast-tracked because they got contacts amongst the staff. It is unethical. Finally, 8 hours after I left home, I'm in the queue to see the specialist. Would you agree this is an unacceptable journey? Yet, this is typical for a majority of 207 million Pakistani people being denied of basic health facilities because of poverty and inefficient systems. This situation is not very different from more than 3 billion people across the world. I wanted to find out why is this happening, why the healthcare system has fallen apart in Pakistan, why the government cannot provide efficient healthcare. Through a mixed method, I interviewed 31 leaders from senior hospital management and union representatives to get their insights. Then, using a perception survey, I collected over 1,400 responses from frontline doctors and nurses. I found 4 important factors. Firstly, increasing population and low budget. Secondly, shortage of health professionals. Thirdly, poor human resource management practices. And finally, high prevalence of unethical behavior. I found that more than 90% of the hospital administrators are not qualified to lead a hospital, as they come from the clinical background, and there is a conflict of interest being an administrator and a highly paid specialist. Therefore, they are not capable of strategic planning and implementation. My study found that the hospital performance can be improved through a combination of strategic HRM and ethical leadership. So to transform, there is a need for HRM planning and implementation, especially recruitment and training. Through this, everyone will benefit: doctors, nurses, and especially poor patients across many regions. So in future, if these people will get sick, they will be treated more efficiently in ways which we in Australia take for granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Now, this leads us to our 6th finalist, Shunyan Zhang, from the School of Education in the College of Design and Social Context. Shunyan is speaking this afternoon on, the title of her presentation is China as Method, Learning to See Multiplicity. Her doctoral work is being conducted under the supervision of Professor Peter Kelly and Dr. Emily Gray, and the larger project from which this presentation is drawn is entitled China, a Hybrid Assemblage, Identity, Symbol and Metaphor in a Language Program in Australia. Please welcome Shunyan.
When you look at this presentation slide, you might get some understanding about my research. In the last 7 years, I have been teaching and researching in a local primary school in Melbourne. Using autoethnography, I look at cultural practices in teaching and learning. I want to find out how China is assembled and represented in Australian classrooms. There are 2 very important observations that I'd love to share with you. The first, most of my students are from multicultural backgrounds. It's interesting to notice that most of their cultures are silenced. Apart from Multicultural Day or Harmony Day, there's a little space for them to present their voice in public. Meanwhile, I also discovered most of my Australian students are constantly referring back to their cultural or ethnic background when they try to understand what China means to them. Based on this observation, especially understanding a culture by referencing another culture inspired me to develop this concept, China as a method. From educational perspective, China as a method invite all students from diversified cultural, racial background to share their cultures, beliefs, and values. By doing this, their cultures become visible and they have their voice in this multicultural society. As this presentation slide shows, my ultimate goal is to help young learners learn to see multiplicity in our globalized society. Therefore, from my research, I propose China as a method is providing space for young learners learn to see culture others, not only differentiating cultural stereotypes, but understanding and differentiating and respecting cultural differences. Second, China as a method is also applicable to any other second language teaching, such as Japan as a method, Indonesia as a method. This ideological shift reignites the old debate on how second language should be conducted in today's globalized world when cultural, racial, or religious conflicts are constantly arise. Thank you.
Which brings us to our 7th and final finalist this afternoon. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Charitha Harshani Pereira Withanaji from the College of Business, RMIT, Vietnam. Charitha is a doctoral candidate in the School of Business and Management at RMIT, Vietnam, under the supervision of Rajakshaw Nayak and Dr. Nguyen Van Tan Long. Her doctoral research investigates the impact of social media marketing on brand equity related to higher education institutions in emerging countries. The current focus of her research is on comparing the social media marketing adoption among emerging countries in branding their higher education institutions. The topic of her presentation this afternoon is social media marketing and branding for universities in developing countries. Please make Charitha feel welcome.
As I scroll through my social media pages multiple times every day, I consistently notice new posts and stories by different universities. I have been a fan of the comments under the news, but I also love the content shared by the universities on their official social media pages. Nowadays, universities are using social media not only as an information provider, but as a marketing tool also. In an increasingly competitive environment, universities are trying to adopt social media as their marketing strategy to brand themselves in order to attract more prospective students. But however, the studies on social media marketing in creating a brand name for the universities has been very controversial and limited. Further, the previous studies on social media marketing have mainly focused on developed countries, and this is where my PhD research comes in. My study is trying to identify the impact of social media marketing in creating a well-known brand name for the universities in developing countries. So my study is focusing on 5 aspects: social media marketing, branding, private universities, undergraduates, developing countries, Sri Lanka, and Vietnam. In order to truly determine this impact, I conducted a survey with 800 undergraduates from Sri Lanka and Vietnam, gathering their real-life experiences with universities on popular social media platforms. And I found 3 interesting findings. First, social media marketing is extremely important in creating a well-known brand name, and Facebook is the ideal place for it. And second, prospective students are highly influenced by the information shared by their friends on social media than the university-created content on their official social media pages. Third, Vietnamese are highly engaged with social media marketing activities, but Sri Lankans are still in their early stages in adopting social media as their marketing strategy. So do you think social media marketing influences undergraduates' perception in accepting universities in developing countries? Yes, it is effective. And yes, it is impactful. And these were the research questions my study answered. Thank you.
Thanks to all of our finalists for nobody went over the 3-minute margin. And in fact, quite a few came in well under, and someone came in nearly 20 seconds under, so well done. I should have made an observation earlier. This event is being filmed. You'll notice that there's a film crew here. Excerpts of the competition will be on the RMIT website in due course. I guess the other observation that I would make, I'm just going to ask for a show of hands from our finalists. How many finalists for whom English is not their first language? 3, 4. Is English your first language or is it second language? Yeah, 5. 5 of our finalists speaking articulately in a language that's not the mother tongue. And I'm just going to ask, any Australian-born finalists? 2. So we're a very international cohort, but our international students, and I take my hat off to you for the courage speaking in a language that's not the mother tongue at such a high level, and every year it is our international candidates who get through to finals, and it's a real credit to you. Very, it should be called out. Now, our judges are working away on their scoring sheets, not to put any pressure on them, because what we're going to do now is have a break for some afternoon tea. And I think there'll be refreshments in the room outside, which will allow our judges to continue with their deliberations and come up with some winners for us. Now is the time for our audience members to fill out their ballot forms for the People's Choice. And Louise, where do you want those ballot forms left? Okay, just leave them with Louise on the way out to get your refreshments, or hand them into Sam. And before we go, I think just another warm round of applause for all of our fantastic finalists this afternoon. Okay, now thanks so much for curtailing your afternoon tea by about 5 minutes so we can get this underway. The food will still be available when you leave this hall, so you can continue eating and refreshments after we make these announcements. So, we had, the judges have been very busy and have reported to me that they had a great deal of difficulty selecting the winners because the quality at the top of the competition very, very high indeed. And the People's Choice also, many votes were cast. And I'm very pleased to announce that the winner of the RMIT People's Choice for the 3-Minute Thesis 2019 is Muhammad Faisal. Well done, Muhammad. A great communicator and very popular.
Thank you.
Well done. We don't usually do a runners-up for the People's Choice, but there was really only a whisker in it this year. And the runner-up for the People's Choice 2019 was Charlene Testrel. So well done for that, Charlene. I don't want to keep you in suspense forever, but, you know, I'm going to just delay the announcement of the winners for a moment because I would really like to give certificates of participation to all of our finalists. I don't do that now? Oh, okay. That's a good point. Yeah, someone's thinking. All right. So, coming in second place in the 2019 competition, our runner-up is Nenjiang. Just maybe stay up there, Nenjiang. And it now gives me great pleasure to announce our winner from the College of Science, Engineering and Health for her important work on microplastics, Charlene Testrel. Woohoo! Thank you so much. Absolute pleasure. Thank you. You've got some very excited fans out there. And now I'd like to call on our remaining finalists to receive a certificate of participation. So beginning first with, I've just got to find my list again, with Emma Ray. Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you. Yeah. Well, we'll end up having some photos as well. So, and I'll call on Nilmani next. Nilmani Warasingi. Shunyang Zheng. Sharitha Hashani Pereri with Anaji. From RMIT Vietnam. So just looking at my checklist, the People's Choice Award, the winner will be presented with an Apple iPad. Have we got that here now, or is that? Yep. Oh, thank you. I'm just wondering, we need all the finalists up on stage at the end. So come on up, Faisal. Thank you, my absolute pleasure. We'll get a photo. Thank you. Now, our runner-up who has received her award envelope, just for the benefit of the audience, she's been granted a $1,000 travel grant to be used towards travel for research-related purposes, hopefully to attend a conference or something worthwhile. Thank you. And our winner is presented with a $3,500 travel grant towards their PhD and flights and accommodation to represent RMIT in Brisbane at the 3MT Asia Pacific Finals to be held at the University of Queensland later in the year. So a big round of applause we'll get all of our winners up on the stage, our winners and finalists up on the stage. A big round of applause for our winners. And a very big round of applause to all our finalists, recognising that it is a really significant achievement to be able to talk compellingly about your research in 3 minutes with the assistance of only one slide. And I think we only have a couple of winners, but all of our finalists have really excelled. And they deserve our applause. So please give them a big round of applause. Now, members of the audience are free to go and avail themselves of the refreshments. I think I need to confer with the photographer. There may be more photographs that you require. So please, everybody else, the proceedings are formally concluded. Take more refreshments, please. Eat as much as you wish, and we'll get these photos done, and you can join your friends who are finalists then. Thank you very much, and a warm thanks again to our judges.